What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. Today we're going to go through and we're going to build up a badass relic from the ground up. Now, the steps we take for doing this particular relic is going to be the same for any defense that you can follow through. However, for the purposes of this video, we are going to be building out a relic for the Tesla Coil. The Tesla Coil is just got an awesome amount of fun to it. This, of course, is a version of the Lightning Tower from Dungeon Defenders 1 and is just super cool. Now, when you are building out a relic or any defense period, there's three basic steps you're going to want to take. Step number one would be make sure you're at the speed cap. Step number two would be find a range you're happy with. And then step number three would be stack as much power as you can. Of course, the stacking power portion of this can take place using tower-specific shards or mods. It could be using anti-mods. It could be using diverse mods. Just stack as much power as you can, but make that your third priority. Because if you're not at the speed cap, you're just not going to get the results out of the tower. If you don't have a range on the tower you're happy with, well, then you just got a range on the tower that you're not happy with. And then power, although it is extremely important, it should be what you look at very finally to finish up your relic or to fine-tune it. Now, first things first, starting things off, Dungeon Defenders 2 is a game of shards. Shards are the building blocks for the game. Before you do anything with the tower, you should always figure out what shards you want to use first. Now, for any damaging defense in the game, the go-to for shard slot number 1 and shard slot number 2 is always going to be mass destruction and destruction. If this is your main defense on the map, or the defense that you're going to be using to clear the majority of the enemies, there is just no greater combination than having these two shards. Next up, you want to look at that third shard slot. The third shard slot, there could be a tower-specific shard, there could be things like defense rate, or there could be more range through either vicious strikes or deadly strikes. Now, starting off and taking a look at our Tesla, let's just grab any old relic and throw it on here. That one will work. And let's take a look at things. Now, here is the default range of the Tesla. This, of course, is once you have applied your Ascension, which you're always going to want to use, in most cases, the range gambit on your Ascension. That is the base range of the Tesla. Now, I personally am not happy with that range. It's well in range of most of the ranged enemies in the game. It's even pretty close to like goblin range, so even just little goblins throwing their bombs are going to be able to hit the Tesla. So for my personal opinion, I need to have more range on my Tesla tower. Well, what are your base shards for range? Once again, it's deadly strikes and vicious strikes. Now you can go through and calculate the value you get out of your range using the range scaler. Or even easier, you can just pop the shards in and look at the range. So if we put in our Deadly Strike shard first and take a look at the Tesla, we're going to see it is at 3,150 attack range. Now, if we go ahead and pop that one out and we throw in Vicious Strikes, we're going to see it's 3,323. So there is a slightly increased value for using Vicious Strikes, and on many defenses in the game, Vicious Strikes is not the best one, even though it is a Hyper Shard. However, for the Tesla Tower, it does get slightly better scaling than Deadly Strikes does. So with that in mind, the three shards I want to use are going to be Mass Destruction, Destruction, and Vicious Strikes. Now, I didn't hit the number one thing that we're supposed to be prioritizing, and that is defense rate. Now, to get to the defense rate caps, on most defenses in the game, you have to get to 75%. You're getting 35% here from your defense speed and your Ascension, so you would need another 40% rate. Now, we can get that 40% rate out of using an 8 out of 8, or pardon me, a 10 out of 10 Chaos 8 or higher quality defense rate servo. You see, that's got 40% on there. So that is going to have to be shard slot number 1. We've got to have, or pardon me, mod slot number 1. We've got to have defense rate on there to be able to get to the speed cap. Since that is our top priority, then boom, we're set. Now that we've got our mods in play, or our shards in place, mass destruction, destruction, and vicious strikes, and we've got our first mod in place, defense rate, next up we want to look at, is there any mod specific to this tower that is going to provide a benefit? Now, just because a defense has a mod specific to it does not necessarily mean it's going to be a mod you want to use. Now, the Tesla Coil does have ramping voltage, so for ramping voltage, we are going to want to make sure we get that in. So Tesla Coil deals more damage as it strikes enemies, up to a maximum of 50% extra damage. Damage increase resets after not attacking for 5 seconds. This is basically comparable to a 50% anti-mod, so it's not going to be 100% uptime. However, the uptime on it will be the majority of the time. And ramping voltage is one of the mods that I want to use with this build. Now, we've got one more mod slot left. Now, the last mod slot, we've got several options. Well, we've got the rate now. Additionally, we've got a range we're happy with. So now we're on to step 3, and that is power. We want more power. So we can get more power on this slot by using like an anti-mod. Additionally, if you're not happy with the range, you can always go with more range, and there's nothing wrong with that. I personally want to use an anti-mod. Now, controller servo is going to be a go-to on this one because I don't think I'm going to use the Tesla Coil ever where I'm not going to be using crowd control. So crowd control is almost always going to apply. Anti-chaos is another super powerful mod, as is anti-melee. However, for this particular case, controller servo is going to be my third mod slot. Now, of course, to get these 10 out of 10 mods, you can either reroll the mod yourself. Every 286 rerolls guarantees a 10 out of 10 mod. You can buy the mod from another player, or you can hit the absolute jackpot and find a mod. Now, going in with the intention of just farming and finding all the mods you need at 10 out of 10 is not realistic. So even the heaviest grinders in the game have not found every mod they need. They've always either re-rolled the mods or bought the mods themselves. For me personally, I have probably re-rolled 10,000 plus times. I don't even know what the number is. But re-rolling is kind of the go-to DIY 10 out of 10 mod. Now, before we do anything with these mods, we want to make sure they are Chaos 8 or higher quality. So, for example, this controller servo is not Chaos 8. It's on a Chaos 7 relic. So before we do anything, we are going to want to upgrade this to Chaos 8. And you see it is now at 35% damage to crowd-controlled enemies. So I've got my mods I need. I've got my shards I'm going to want to put into it. Now I need to find a target relic. Now, for the purposes of this video, I am just going to use this relic. I'm going to use this relic because I wanted to kind of show all of the tinkering features in the game. This relic, of course, does not have a maximum defense health roll or even close to it. But on that same note, defense health is about the least concern of mine for a Tesla Coil. If the Tesla Coil gets hit in Chaos 10 or higher quality content, or higher difficulty content, it is going to get destroyed, even with a max defense health roll. So you want to make sure your Teslas are just not getting slapped. So even though this is not a super high roll on that defense health, I'm going to use this relic anyway. So since this is going to be our target relic, what is the first thing I want to do? Well, first off, we got to look at that defense power. That is really, really low. So I can get quite a bit more defense power just by re-rolling the main stat. So let's go ahead and start off there. We want to go to our reroll tab, and we want to start rolling the defense power. Defense power, or main stat rerolls, of course, is going to take pristine talismans. and some pristine motes, but let's give it a few rolls and see what we get. There's already an improvement. No thanks. I am looking for like a 90% plus roll. There's a 83%. Let's see what we can do. We get a 90% plus roll. I'll be pretty happy with this one. And there we go, 94.82%. I'm content with that. Taking a look at that relic now, it's 81,558 of 82,000. I'm losing out on, what, 442 defense power off of this one. That I can live with. Next up, this relic, of course, is only a mythical relic. So we've only got 2 mod slots. So we want to make this particular relic legendary. We're going to do that by advancing through the Advanced tab. It's just going to take 15 Chaos 9 amps or 15 amps of the difficulty that you're in and some gold or defender medals. And boom, you now have a legendary relic, 3 mod slots, and we can now tinker our mods onto this relic. Now, once again, it's just super, super important. Look at your mods prior to moving them. Make sure they're at Chaos 8 quality. Now, don't just look at the totem. Look at the mod itself, and does it look like what should be a max roll to you? Now, the maximum rolls on mods at Chaos 8 or higher quality is listed out on many, many places throughout the internet. Make sure you are up to that before you move them, because if you move them prior, you are going to tank that relic, and you're going to have to do some more things to the relic to get it fixed properly. So let's go ahead and head on over. This is going to be our target relic. And starting things off, we know we need that defense rate. We got that on there. And then we're going to want to put that controller on. So making sure, once again, Chaos 8. And we'll get that on there. So now our relic is mostly complete. However, now we want to take it up to Chaos 10 quality. So first things first, let's just upgrade this bad boy and let's get it to Chaos 10. Let's take it all the way up. And there we go. We now have a 10 out of 10 Chaos 10 quality relic for our Tesla towers. Now, what comes next? Well, up next comes the Godly Roll. Now, the Godly Roll, you can really take a look at your shards for determining what you want to roll. If you're not at the range cap on your defense, and a defense is actually working out better for you to have vicious strikes over deadly strikes on that defense, then the Godly range roll could be something you want to look at, as it is just a raw stat value, just like vicious strikes is. However, on any damaging defense, it is super, super hard to pass up crit chance. 10% crit chance is a maximum Godly roll, and it is just an incredible amount of power in a additional stat that comes for free. And of course, to take this up to Godly, we are going to need 30 Chaos 10 amps, since it's a Chaos 10 item, and 5 Godly orbs. Now, I should have looked at my amps prior, where I've been burning Chaos 10 amps. I've only got 30 left. So I should have taken this up to Godly at a lower tier, where I've just am swamped with amps before I did this. However, mistakes were made. We've got one shot here, and the Godly orbs, of course, come from the new survival mode and selling Godly gear. Now, let's see what we get. And we got defense range, which defense range is really good, there's no doubt, but that is not the role I was looking for. I, of course, am looking for defense crit chance. So with that in mind, we can head on over here and reforge. Reforging is going to cost a Godly orb, an ancient hammer, and then either defender medals or gems. Sadly, I am low on defender medals as well, but we can give it one reroll and hope for the best. And we didn't get it. We got a 10% defense resistance roll, which would be incredible on a wall, but that is not at all what we're looking for. Now, I'm not going to blow any gems on this. I'm going to wait to get more defender medals before I re-roll it. However, I do want to make sure I get crit chance, ideally at 10% on this particular relic. So hopefully that helps everyone out in building the perfect relic. Obviously, the game is all about grinding those crafting materials. If you can find things like mods or any materials you need for a decent price from other players in player shops, then that is always going to be the easiest go-to for you to get them. Besides that, you're going to have to grind it out and farm that stuff up. But that will do it for now. Thanks an absolute ton for watching, and I will see you next time around. Take it easy.